The clerk, may I, while standing, say this is our last day for closure. It is our intention to be done by latest 12. Thank you. The clerk shall read the first order of the day.
Honorable President, presentation and adoption of the final resolutions and recommendations.
I now invite the clerk to read the first resolution.
Honorable President and honorable members, the first resolution is the resolution on
Order, I think there's some talk or discussion somewhere. Please respect the chamber. Proceed, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 1 is the resolution on the adoption of the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan of the Pan-African Parliament. After 8 preambular paragraphs, the Parliament now therefore hereby resolves to 1. Adopt the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan along with the goals, strategic objectives, indicative activities developed therein. 2, foster stronger partnerships with AU organs, national parliaments, regional parliaments, and international bodies, and strengthen coordination with other AU organs for an effective implementation of the strategic plan. 3, prioritize resource mobilization efforts to ensure sufficient funding for the 2024-2028 strategic plan, and this includes diversifying funding sources and encouraging member states' contributions. 4, further prioritize institutional capacity building and development of staff and parliamentarians, focusing on finalization of a new structure for the Pan-African Parliament, personnel recruitment and training, enhancing technological infrastructure, and establishment of innovative systems and digital transformation, and the use of technology in parliamentary processes to support the Pan-African Parliament's legislative and oversight functions. 5, engage with the African Union, member states, regional economic communities, and development partners to secure the technical and financial resources necessary to implement the strategic plan successfully. 6, mandate the Secretariat to develop a comprehensive resource mobilization strategy, including cost estimates to support sustained financial and operational stability. 7, implement a robust communication strategy incorporating technology and digital outreach to keep African citizens informed of its objectives, activities, and accomplishments under the 2024-2028 strategic plan. 8, commit to periodic reviews of the strategic plan to adapt to Africa's dynamic needs and evolving challenges, ensuring relevance and responsiveness. 9, in consultation with stakeholders, ensure regular updating of strategic priorities and action plans as necessary to address emerging issues and opportunities. 10, establish a strategic plan oversight committee of the Pan-African Parliament consisting of joint bureau and bureaucracies with mandate to monitor implementation, address emerging challenges, foster coordination amongst various structures, and ensure accountability for the effective implementation of the 2024-2028 strategic plan, adopted in Midrand, South Africa on the 5th of November, 2024.
Any comments on the first resolution? Honorable Patrick.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I want to thank you for the team for this resolution. I just wanted to mention that it would be good practice always to have a review scheduled so that before you reach the end of this strategic plan, at least you do a midterm and a final, we do a midterm and a final review of the strategic plan. And I'm looking at it, looks like it was not well captured. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any dispute. That's a good point, that we need to have a midterm review in our implementation plan. I think that, to me, that's acceptable. Honorable Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I am disappointed that we have not received the resolutions in French, and so it's very hard to make comments on this document. However, with regards to the resolutions, we should mention that the PAP prioritizes lobbying of states for the ratification of the Malabo Protocol, so that by 2028 we have our legislative status. So we need to say that we are prioritizing lobbying for the ratification of the Malabo Protocol. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, that's another good contribution. I don't see any objection to that. That should be included. But before I move, the issue, Madam Clerk, the issue of the French.
Your Excellency.
The French, no, we are coming to the floor. The French translation, can you confirm whether we have a translation in French or not? Sorry, can I announce that?
By direction of the President, I wish to announce that all language versions are available at the entrance, and we'll ask the ushers to bring the documents into the chamber and distribute them to honorable members.
Sorry, what did you say? I was not. They are available as you enter the chamber. All right, ushers, please secure the French copy. Honorable Badger. Sorry, before we proceed, Honorable Gayo asked for the floor. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to raise a point on Resolution 6. As a matter of precedence and a matter of protocol, I think it will be appropriate the plenary will mandate the bureau, not the secretariat. Sorry?
Interpretation. Try, let's see.
Is that okay now?
Interpretation, French, is it French or Arabic? Arabic and French. Interpretation, today we want to finish early interpretation. We don't want these mistakes of delaying us. Everyone in the booth should really be in the booth and concentrating. We don't want these stoppages. We end up finishing at 3. French interpretation, is it there now? French. Arabic? Yes. Arabic?
Yes.
French?
Yes.
French, yes. Okay. Proceed.
Good morning, Honorable President. Good morning, honorable members. I wanted to raise a point on resolution number 6. As a matter of protocol and as an order of precedence, I think it will be appropriate if plenary will mandate the bureau, not the secretariat. Secretariat should be mandated by the bureau, not by.
Sorry, interpretation.
المترجم لا يسمع ما يقوله السيد نائب الرئيس.
The interpreter cannot hear what the vice president is saying because there is an echo. There is.
Hope you can hear me, interpreters. Now. Okay, my point is on 6, resolution number 1. It says mandate the secretariat to develop comprehensive resource mobilization says. I'm saying, as a order of precedence or as a matter of protocol, the plenary is supposed to mandate the bureau, not the secretariat. Secretariat should be mandated by the bureau. That's my point. I thank you, Mr. President.
Right, the point is that the top organ of the organization is the bureau, not the secretariat. So it's to mandate the bureau. Now that's plenary mandating the bureau. Then the bureau will then instruct the secretariat. That is in order. Any other? Yeah, yes. Honorable Baja.
Thank you, Honorable President, Chief Fortune Chanombera, for giving me the floor. First, I would like I reject for the 1,000th times that the copies must be distributed. The recommendations and the resolutions must be distributed in Arabic and English. Only the French version is at the entrance, so we demand repeatedly about the availability of the Arabic versions within the chamber. Thank you very much.
Again, I will ask the secretariat to provide information on that one. Why would the translation only be in French and not in Arabic? Sorry, I'm waiting for the Secretariat just to advise us if there is translation in Arabic or not. Why not say you have translated or not? We don't need a long conversation on this one.
Honorable President, we are informed that English, French, Portuguese are ready and distributable, but the Arabic has experienced a little bit of a delay, but they'll be bringing it shortly.
Yeah, but who is the Arabic translator? Why should the Arabic translator delay when the French and the Arab and the Portuguese? I think these are serious assignments. Whoever you give, they are being paid to deliver in this chamber, not to deliver after the chamber. I think we should start looking at who are these people that you give assignments and who don't deliver. That document is only usable this morning. If they deliver it after lunch, it's of no value. Why should we pay them? Can they deliver that document? If they failed, surely next time don't give such people assignments. Okay, he's calling. Let's proceed. Your comment, Honorable Baja, is noted and taken seriously.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Any other contribution on resolution number 1? I'm looking all over. I can't see any. Honorable Fagnon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, I would like to once again draw your attention to something important that we need to commit to ensuring that there is an improvement in management of the Pan-African Parliament through the strategic plan. And I would like to draw your attention to this point. We have to set up a parliamentary work group bringing together representatives from all the committees to ensure that the PAP is well managed. It is not just for the Bureau and the Secretariat to oversee this. I would like to motivate that we have a parliamentary work group because it is extremely important for this group to be able to assist in identifying shortfalls in terms of the management of the PAP. Otherwise, next time, nothing will have been done.
Thank you, Honorable Fagnon. If you read 10, number 10, establish a strategic plan oversight committee consisting of joint bureau and bureaucracy meeting. Is that what you mean? Or that one doesn't meet your expectation? Honorable Fagnon?
Monsieur le Président, c'est...
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that the way it is formulated here is incomplete. We need to have this committee that focuses on the activities of the committees and the caucuses, and we need to have a committee that is a cross-cutting committee. We can even work online, or we can meet in person, but we have to have a collective responsibility. The Secretariat and the Bureau cannot do this alone. We have to assist and we have to all take ownership of the management of the PAP.
Thank you. The bureau, and not the bureaucracies means, okay, the bureau leads, and then you have bureaucracies meaning all chairpersons of committees, all deputy chairpersons of committees, all rapporteurs, all chairpersons of caucuses, regional caucuses, they are deputies and rapporteurs. Women caucus, the three in the bureau, youth caucus, the three in the bureau, are members of this bureaucracies. Does that satisfy you? Honorable Fanyon, does that satisfy you?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, Mr. President. Yes, I think that can work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any contributions on resolution number 1? I don't see any. So I put the resolution for adoption agreed to with amendments. Thank you, adopted. I shall now invite the clerk to read resolution number 2.
Honorable President, honorable members of the Bureau, and honorable members, resolution number 2 is the resolution on endorsement of the draft model law on the right to nationality and eradication of statelessness in Africa. After 13 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby, 1, endorses the draft model law on the right to nationality and the eradication of statelessness in Africa as tabled in the plenary. 2, commends the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, and Conflict Resolution for the progress made towards the formulation of the model law on the right to nationality and eradication of statelessness in Africa. 3, authorizes the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, and Conflict Resolution to proceed with regional consultations and public hearings to ensure that the draft model law integrates contributions and aspirations of various stakeholders and interested parties. 4, mandates the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, and Conflict Resolution to continue carrying out advocacy, sensitization, and capacity building activities on the right to nationality and the eradication of statelessness in Africa. 5, requests also members of the Pan-African Parliament to promote, where applicable, the ratification, domestication, and implementation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and its protocols, particularly the protocol to the African Charter on the right to a nationality and eradication of statelessness in Africa. 6, resolves to join the Global Alliance to End Statelessness and requests the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, and Conflict Resolution to work with relevant stakeholders to amplify the voice of the Pan-African Parliament towards the eradication of statelessness in Africa. 7, expresses gratitude to the United Nations Human Rights Council and other stakeholders from which the committee received support for the formulation of the model law on the right to nationality and the eradication of statelessness in Africa, adopted in Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November 2024. Yes.
Thank you. I shall now allow contributions on resolution number 2. Madam Mariam Honorable.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have 2 comments. In the French version, the third decision says authorizes the Committee on Cooperation, and it should be the Standing Committee on Cooperation. In terms of point 4, this has drawn my attention because I wonder whether it is not up to all of us parliamentarians to do a lobbying. And I think that we should say that the plenary mandates the Committee on Cooperation and International Relations to continue advocacy with national and regional parliaments, because in terms of sensitization and capacity building, it is civil society and the executive.
Thank you. I don't see any problem. Further contributions? Page 7. You want to make a contribution, page 7? Okay. So that is agreed to then, that contribution. So if there are no further comments, then can we adopt it? Is it agreed to? Adopted. The clerk will present resolution number 3.
Honorable President, the resolution number 3 is the resolution on endorsement of the draft model law on labor migration in Africa. After 11 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby 1. Endorses the draft model law on labor migration in Africa as tabled in the plenary. 2. Commends the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations and Conflict resolution for the progress made towards the formulation of the model law on labor in Africa. 3. Authorizes the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations and Conflict resolution to proceed with regional consultations and public hearings to ensure that the draft model law integrates contributions and aspirations of various stakeholders and interested parties. 4. Mandates the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations and Conflict resolution to continue carrying out advocacy, sensitization, and capacity building activities on labor migration in Africa. 5. Requests also members of the Pan-African Parliament to promote, where applicable, the ratification, domestication, and implementation of international, regional, and sub-regional legal instruments on labor, human rights, and migration. And 6. Expresses gratitude to the ILO and other technical partners from which the committee received support for the formulation of the model law on labor migration in Africa, adopted in Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November, 2024. Yeah.
Thank you. Any contributions on this resolution?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes,
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I have 2 points on contribution to share with you. On page 11, on 5, which requests also members of the Pan-African Parliament to promote where applicable. I would like this paragraph to be split into 2. Mr. President, when we consider the draft model law and the presentation of the report of the workshop, we noted that there is a deficit of signatures and ratifications of the protocol. All the protocols face problems, and my colleague Evan referred to the Treaty on ECA and also the Charter on the Youth, on the African Youth. Mr. President, if we do not take a resolution, and a resolution must be clear in order to request that the Pan-African Parliament sets up a strategy in order to speed up the signing and ratification of the protocol. Somebody has spoken about the International Convention. The other point is that we have thanked the ILO, but we have mentioned that it is important for the ILO to formalize the partnership with us for the forthcoming period, because this is important, because in cooperation with national partners and national parliaments, we need the financial resources and the strategy. So if we do not mention them, then we can forget them or neglect them in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
contribution. Honorable Gayo.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving floor. In this resolution, mostly we are talking about the labor issue, but we didn't include Committee on Labor and Health. So I think it seems to me we already ignored the Committee on Labor and Social Affairs. Maybe and somehow we can incorporate the Committee on Labor. It will be appropriate, Your Excellency. So they can create some sort of synergy and work together. Otherwise, International Labour Organization directly or indirectly connected with the Committee on Labor. But we didn't mention here. I don't know really how it went. Maybe it will be appropriate to include the Committee on Labor. I thank you.
Thank you. As that is noted, any other contributions? I'm seeing none. Can we adopt then? Merci beaucoup. The clerk will read the next resolution.
Honorable President, Resolution 4 is the resolution on the legal and policy framework paper for the draft model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies. After 9 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby resolves to 1. Take note with appreciation the progress realized by the Committee on Justice and Human Rights in the formulation of a model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies. 2, adopt the legal and policy framework paper for the model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies and further requests the committee to proceed with the development and finalization of the model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies in line with the legal and policy framework paper. 3, also requests the Committee on Justice and Human Rights to intensify parliamentary advocacy and engagement for the effective domestic implementation of decisions of the African human rights bodies. 4, mandates the Committee on Justice and Human Rights to increase collaboration and engagement with African human rights bodies, regional and national parliamentary bodies, national human rights institutions, as well as civil society actors in the process of formulation of the model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies. 5, welcomes the technical support from the Center for Human Rights of the University of Pretoria and the Human Rights Implementation Center of the University of Bristol in the formulation of the model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies. And 6, commends the Committee on Justice and Human Rights for the milestone achieved in the formulation of the model law on implementation of decisions of African human rights bodies adopted in Midrand, South Africa.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any contributions on this one? I'm checking all over. I don't see. Adopted. Okay. Any interest? Oh, Honorable Patrick.
Okay, just one mistake on the date.
Oh, sorry, Jean-Marie. Honorable Jean-Marie.
Okay. C'est juste une erreur.
Just a typo. Adopted in Midrand, they said the 5th of July. It should be November, 15 November instead of the 5th of July. No, it should be 15 November. And here it's written 5 July.
There was mistake. 5 July. Yeah. Even in English. It was only mistake on the date.
So, can the clerk tell us the correction?
The correction will be in the last line of the resolution, which will now read, adopted at Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November 2024.
Correct. So the clerk can proceed to present the next resolution.
Honorable President, resolution number 5 is resolution on peace and security in Africa. After 7 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby resolves to 1, enhance coordination and collaboration with other African Union organs and institutions, as well as national and regional parliaments, to promote good governance, democracy, human rights, and peace and security in Africa. 2, urges the African Union Commission to regularly provide to the Pan-African Parliament detailed reports on the peace and security situation in Africa. 3, advocate for implementation of the youth and women empowerment strategies to ensure their participation in the affairs of government. 4, engage with national human rights institutions to establish their areas of need, as well as how to strengthen them to effectively perform their mandates with respect to promoting peace and security in the member states. 5, promote sharing of information, best practices, and lessons learned amongst the African Union bodies involved in election observation, such as the Peace and Security Council, to strengthen the overall effectiveness of the missions. 6, actively involve the AU Peace and Security Council in all activities related to the election observation process, to promote a more comprehensive and coordinated approach to promoting and protecting human rights, good governance, democracy, and peace and security. And 7, enhance collaboration with national election management bodies and civil society organizations to gain a deeper understanding of the local context and concerns of the African people, adopted at Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November 2024. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any contributions, additions? Honorable Patrick.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, this resolution, I don't know, I feel it may not pick out the key critical values that we aspire for. I just imagine if, given what goes on in Africa, Mr. President, where wars break up now and again, and African Union takes ages without responding, without a solution, neither as Pan-African Parliament, we are not seen anywhere. So, Mr. President, I expected a resolution on peace and security to tackle those key critical issues like response time of the African Union, to tackle issues with boiling points. There are times, because by the time a war breaks up, there are quite areas and countries where there are boiling points, and it can take over 10 years, where there is gross abuse of human rights in a certain country, and AU is not concerned at all. By the time there is a revolution, the boiling point has been going on for some time. I needed to hear a resolution that responds. Why would, Mr. President, why is AU is not a solution to African questions? You were witnessing a situation where coups are happening in Africa and people celebrate. Why are we not providing, AU, this institution of ours, failing to provide a solution? And if you see one of the critical reasons why it was established, it was mainly in this area of peace and security. What has been happening during elections, what goes on during elections, Mr. President, governments and individuals go on to abuse the fundamental principles of peace and security. And the AU says nothing, not even a communication, not even nothing. And for me, our resolutions as African Parliament, the Pan-African Parliament, should come in to ensure that AU does the right thing prior to conflicts, prior to wars, and even during wars, so that we can, this Parliament urges the African Union to come up with quick responses and solutions, so that at least AU is known, Mr. President, as a solution to matters of peace, matters of human rights abuse. Thank you very much.
Do you want to make any proposal or addition to the resolutions in view of what you have said? Or you may do it later, you can write something if you want to add, and then later on, you can present
Mr. President, I can craft up something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I also want to, you can take a seat. I also want to reinforce your point of a coup and people celebrate. I think that dynamic on the continent, we need as Pan-African Parliament to interrogate it further. What does it show? Is it people expressing their will or people expressing their fear of the new situation and just want to comply? I'm aware in one country where there was a coup and the chair of the African Union was sent to that country to go and tell the military to step down and allow civilian government. On arrival at the airport, the chairperson of the African Union, even the chairperson, not AUC, but the chair of the African Union, then I want to mention the country and the year because people from that country are here. The chair of the African Union was received by thousands of citizens celebrating the military coup. This chairperson had gone to tell the military to step down. The people were celebrating that this is what we want. So you are right. But I think we need to go deeper and say, in some situation, we know in Niger it happened. Is it really people showing true happiness, or they are simply complying with the situation that has befallen them? Any other contributions? Do you have any other contribution on this one? Okay, take the floor because I can't see some of the hands. Where are you? You can take the floor. Wherever. Okay, that's Honorable Tule.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Where I want to come in is 6, which says actively involve the AU Peace and Security Council in all activities related to the election observation process. I was thinking that we can add resolution on the post-election crisis, because we engage in election observation, and then after the observation, then there is a crisis in some areas, and then we sit back and allow the crisis to go on. I believe we should be able to play some part in the resolution of some of these crises after elections. That's what I want us to add in 6. Thank you.
I think comment well received. The drafters will structure it and couch it accordingly. Any other comment? Yes.
Ok, gracias, señor presidente. Buenos días. Quería contribuir en el documento en ese.
In the Spanish version, there should be some. There is also a problem on the following page. On the following page, after number 2, there is number 3, but there is no content. And then when you look above on the document written in Spanish, urge, but without any numbering, it's just a problem of probably typing, a problem of, and this is what I wanted to mention. It has to do with the Spanish document. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Take note of the need for corrections in the Spanish document. The clerk will read the next resolution. Sorry? Oh, sorry. I had not seen you. Go ahead. I see a hand over there. Yes?
Merci.
I thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I will not be brief. I have a few additions to the text. On paragraph number 5, the first page, express concerning the threats to peace and stability stemming from violent conflicts, terrorism, political transitions, and coup d'etat. And after that, I would like to add illegal aggressions. Illegal aggressions, and it will continue, and also to violent uprisings in the 5 regions of Africa. On the second page, on 2, urge the African Union Commission to regularly provide to PAP detailed reports on the peace and security situation in Africa. Here, I would like, instead of saying in Africa, I would like to add which encompasses or includes the 5 regions of Africa, which include the 5 regions of Africa. I thank you.
Any other contribution? If I don't see you, please rise so that sometimes the hand is not very visible. Yes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. I'm taking the floor in order to enhance what the colleague from Uganda has said on paragraph 1, which says, enhance coordination and collaboration with other African Union organs and institutions, as well as national and regional parliaments, to promote good governance, democracy, human rights, and peace and security in Africa. Yes, Mr. President, we know that there are many conflicts in Africa, and if we want to promote peace and security, and it is African countries which attack other African countries. So if there is no resolution which binds these African countries from not attacking other countries, so we enhance this resolution. We must add that no African country should attack another African country or to serve as a rear basis to destabilize other African countries if we want to promote peace and stability in Africa. This is what I wanted to add to what my colleague has said. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. I'm trying to reach further with my eyes. Any other contribution? None? Where? Rise. Okay, yes. There you are. Oh, there's one here side. Honorable Said, Brahim Said.
شكرا.
I thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I would like to support what the previous speakers have said. The honourable members who preceded me, Honourable Patrick, and my colleague, the last speaker, who has spoken about very important issues that have to do with peace and security. Mr. President, I would like also to add to this paragraph, that is, to activate the instruments of the African Union which are concerned with the settlement of conflicts in Africa. The African Union has a number of specialized instruments in following up these conflicts and settle them. So there must be a resolution which would support and reaffirm the need to activate the African Union instruments for dispute settlement and support African solutions and granted particular attention in the settlement of the disputes and in order to give more clarity to this resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Contribution? None? Adopted? I see, yes, no problem. We want to adopt, yes. Can you go back to Honorable? Then we come to Honorable Patrick, yes.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. President, thank you for giving me the floor. You said, what are we going to adopt, including the amendments?
Mr. President, just to be more clear on what I was pushing for, is that in addition to 2, we can urge African Union Commission and sister agencies to ensure that the Charter on Human Rights, on Human and People's Rights, and the Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, as agreed on by AU, are ratified by all countries, ratified and domesticated in the respective countries. Because, Mr. President, all that we're looking to achieve under human rights and democracy are included in those 2 charters. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can now adopted with amendments. Madam Clerk.
Honorable President, Resolution 6 and the last resolution for this session is a resolution on the participation of the Pan-African Parliament in the United Nations Summit for the Future. After a number of preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby resolves to 1, ensure that the preparations for the upcoming United Nations summits are initiated in good time to guarantee effective participation and strategic engagement to position Africa's interests at the forefront of global discussions. 2, also ensure that the Pan-African Parliament defines its priorities, aligns them with the summit themes, and develops strategies to effectively advocate for the continent's specific issues and ensure that African voices and challenges are addressed in the global framework. 3, collaborate with the African Union member states and regional organizations such as ECOWAS, SADC, and others to create a unified African stance on critical issues affecting the African continent. 4, leverage side events hosted during the summit as a strategic platform for focused discussions on key issues to highlight African-driven solutions to global challenges, build alliances, and possibly influence summit outcomes. 5, undertake effective media and public diplomacy to ensure Africa's contributions to the summit are recognized globally and to amplify the outcomes of side events during the summit through diverse media platforms, thereby raising awareness of Africa's pivotal role in shaping global policies. 6, work closely with the African Union Commission to ensure that the commitments made in the Pact of the Future are aligned with Agenda 2063, the African Union Strategic Framework for Inclusive Growth and Sustainable Development, and to this end, advocate for national policies that reflect both the goals of the United Nations agreements and Africa's own development priorities, including security, economic reform, and digital transformation. 7, push for the harmonization of national policies across African Union member states to reflect the United Nations agreements, especially those related to digital governance, climate action, and youth empowerment, including through proposing model laws and best practices on digital infrastructure, artificial intelligence, regulation, and sustainable development. 8, create monitoring mechanisms to track the implementation of commitments at national and continental levels, including the Platform of Speakers Conference, which in addition should encourage reporting by African Union member states on their progress towards implementing the Pact for the Future, such as reforms in governance, peace and security, and sustainable development. 9, promote the engagement of diverse stakeholders by fostering partnerships between governments, civil society, and private sector to support the implementation of digital and climate goals. For example, working with tech companies and startups to implement the Global Digital Compact, will read in as a means to accelerate the creation of inclusive digital economies across Africa. 10, in line with the Declaration on the Future Generations, prioritize platforms for youth participation in policy making by strengthening existing platforms and establishing formal mechanisms for youth consultations, ensuring young Africans are part of decision-making processes at the highest levels. 11, champion parliamentary initiatives and alliances to advocate for mobilization of financing of African countries, including climate finance, debt relief, and investment in digital infrastructure in coordination with African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, and other financial bodies. 12, collaborate with African governments to draft and implement continental frameworks for artificial intelligence and data governance, ensuring that all African states are digitally inclusive, providing equal access to the internet and digital services to promote human rights in the digital space, such as protecting online freedoms and ensuring data security. 13, deploy its diplomatic influence to advocate for Africa's interests on the global stage, ensuring that reform priorities in the Pact for the future, particularly the increased representation of Africa in the United Nations Security Council, are realized. Adopted in Midrand, Republic of South Africa on the 15th November 2024.
Thank you, thank you. Any contributions on this one?
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have another resolution to adopt, but Madam Clerk
Madam
said...
Clerk, you are being addressed there.
Madam Clerk said this one is the last resolution. It should be corrected. I thank you.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, can we talk to you? Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said?
Yes, okay. Because this one is in two versions. There's the resolution and the rules of procedure.
There are two versions.
The two versions, but
Solidarity with Palestine.
Clement says the content is the same.
No, there is this one here. In this document. This one. In this document.
Okay, I read this also.
And so adopted, and not yet, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, during the debate on this particular one, I raised the issue on habitat, that there is a United Nations or World Forum for Habitat, and habitat is very important for our people. So, however we can include the issue of habitat, when habitat forums are taking place, we should be participating. AU should be part of the habitat. But as I understand, the last forum that was taking place, PAP did not participate in the forum in UAE, and AU also, I did not see any activity there. So if we can include that, it would be useful. Thank you.
Any other contribution? Where? Sorry, proceed, Honorable Idris.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Allow me to take you back. I have a few remarks, nothing to add really. Just on page 3, the first words starting with the sentence in bold on page 3, considering or acknowledging, or rather recognizing, has to be in bold. On the same page, understand that has to be in small letters. Sometimes it's in block letters, sometimes in small letters. So on page 4, after having reviewed, has to be in small letters. In page 5, the item 10 also have to be in bold. On page 10, recalling has to be in bold as well. On page 10, and on the same page, the first point, approved, has to be in capital, in bold. On page 13, reaffirming has to be in bold. And there's an item missing on under point 3, also requesting the commission. There's also a point missing. There's also a semicolon that is missing on the freedoms that confer to the African Charter and the protocols and other relevant instruments in human rights. There's also a semicolon missing there on page 14. On page 14, since they started with ending with a semicolon, everything should be to follow suit. So in 6, comments the commission on the human rights, it has to be a full stop instead of semicolon. On page 15, deeply concerned has to be in bold on page 15. This concerns the French version of the document, of course. On page 18, this is 1 and 2 have to be in bold as well. On page 20, we don't have. On page 20, yes, page 20, we don't have that in the English document, or rather, yes, we do. On page 20, in the French document, can I just go through the entire document, because the same mistakes apply to the anyway our end here. Maybe I'll come back when we start dealing with that part of the document.
Thank you. Any other contribution?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا سيد الرئيس. سيد الرئيس، أنا لدي تعليق بخصوص التوصيات.
I have a comment on the resolution on the Summit for the Future. On point 3, collaborate with African Union member states and regional organizations such as ECOWAS, SADC, and others. The word others. We know that on the African continent, there are so many institutions and organizations. For example, you have the CENSAD and so forth, and to say others, it actually weakens the other organizations and highlights the other organizations more than others. So I would love that all the organs mentioned always say that collaborate with African Union member states and regional organizations full period, without mentioning ECOWAS and SADC only.
Will be made any other contribution? Any typo? Honorable Suleiman.
Thank you, Honorable President. On 9, when the clerk was reading, she made a rectification at the second to last line after digital compact. Instead of could accelerate, it should be read as a means to accelerate. And we removed it could. I think that was the correction in the English version.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Honorable Fanyu?
Thank you, Honorable President. Now, with regard to this topic, this theme, like I said earlier, Africa has 47% of the children, and I propose that there should be a point or item that on children and women. On point 7 on page 18, we talked about the empowerment of young people or youth empowerment. I'm assuming that women are girls are included, but I like that there should be a point on the same style, but not with regard to digital governance, and also ensure the protection of their rights, human security on women and children, because this is an issue about vulnerability. Thank you very much, Honorable President.
Thank you. Any other request to take the floor? None. Adopted. Yeah, with amendments. I will now call upon the clerk to read the next order for the next resolution.
Honorable President, I do apologize for the omission of this last resolution, which is Resolution 7, resolution on the alignment of the rules of procedure of the Pan-African Parliament to the protocol to the treaty establishing the African Community, Economic Community relating to the Pan-African Parliament Protocol, following violations outlined in the legal opinion by the Office of, and I insert, African Union Commission Legal Counsel, and the directive of the Executive Council. After 11 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament now therefore resolves that 1, the provisions identified by the Office of the Legal Counsel as violating the Pan-African Parliament Protocol and suspended by the Executive Council are, and I insert, hereby nullified and are, I'll just amend no longer to read henceforth shall not form part of the Pan-African Parliament's rules of procedure. 2, Rule 1 and Rule 8.1 relating to the definition of, quote, ceases to be a member, close quote, deemed to violate Article 5.4G of the PAP Protocol is hereby deleted and aligned to the text of Article 5.4G of the Protocol. 3, Rule 8.1F relating to the provision on, open quote, recall, close quote, deemed to violate Article 5.4F and Article 5.4E of the PAP Protocol is hereby deleted and replaced with the text of Article 5.4 of the Protocol. 4, Rule 1 relating to the definition of, open quote, returning member, close quote, deemed to violate Article 13 of the Pan-African Parliament Protocol is hereby deleted. 5, Rule 9.3 relating to, open quote, oath of office, close quote, for open quote, returning members, close quote, deemed to violate Article 13 of the PAP Protocol, which mandates the taking of an oath or solemn declaration, is hereby deleted. 6, Rule 16.14 relating to, open quote, term of office and rotation of the Bureau, close quote, deemed to violate Article 2.3 of the PAP Protocol, is hereby deleted and replaced verbatim with the text of Article 12.3 of the Protocol, which states that, open quote, the terms of office of the President and the Vice President shall run with the National Parliament or deliberative organ which elects or designates them, close quote. 7, Rule 26(8)(a) relating to, open quote, specific functions of Parliament, close quote, and more specifically to the portion of the provision referenced as, open quote, through the development of model laws, close quote, deemed to violate Article 11 of the protocol is hereby deleted. 8, the clerk to ensure with immediate effect that those provisions in the rules of procedure that have been found incompatible with the protocol as identified in the report of the Permanent Committee on Rules, Privileges and Discipline, and the corresponding legal opinion and Executive Council decision are deleted and or replaced verbatim with the language of the protocol. 9, the clerk to produce a clean copy of the rules of procedure of the Pan-African Parliament confirming strict compliance to the aforesaid Executive Council decision, adopted in Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November 2024.
Thank you. Any contributions? Honorable Suleiman.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable President. I want to suggest that we maintain for consistency purpose, we maintain now therefore resolves that instead of be resolved that, as in the English text. And if you go to 8, the last line, where it is saying council decisions are deleted and or replaced. I think we should just maintain replaced. Council decisions are replaced verbatim with the language of the protocol, instead of saying deleted or replaced. We just say replaced with the protocol, what is in the protocol, verbatim. I think we maintain that. Thank you.
Yes. Merci, honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable President. We are a parliament, and it is the most democratic body that can exist in the African Union. And so I'd like to propose, and I think the clerk was right not to mention that resolution or to read it, because the presentation of my neighbor, the rule, has been discussed among us. Since it was not discussed among us, I don't know how we can submit this for recommendation. So I would not really like that we should have to receive lessons from other bodies on the procedure that we are about to adopt. So lack of discussion or debate, which is quite important in our rules of procedure, was missing and was not missing. So if I'm mistaken, and there was no debate, or there was a debate, I would have loved that all the resolutions that took place without debate should be cancelled, and we take one resolution that decides that we align our rules of procedure with the protocols, taking into account the democratic practices on the issue and with respect to the principle of rotation. That's the input I'd like to make. Just one small element. Rule 8 is contrary to our rules of procedure. When you say the clerk to ensure with immediate effect, but it says that somewhere that when there's an amendment of a rule, it takes place in the next session. So when you say here that it takes place with immediate effect, it violates our rules of procedure. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président.
Any other contribution? Is there any? Sorry. Honorable Mariam.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable President, I would like to come back to point 6, that's on page 22, and ask a question just for clarification. This Parliament was closed, if I dare say, for an issue of rotation. And today we are being informed that the rotation of the Bureau is not consistent with what is mentioned in the PAR protocol. I would really like to understand. So what do we do in the end with regard to the principle of rotation? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable President. For me, Honorable President, regarding this resolution, personally speaking, President, I think it would be the first time for me to be part of a resolution that I don't understand. Because when the chairperson for the Committee on Rules read his report here, we were not allowed to debate the report. And because this is legal jargon, and there needs to be clarification on what this means. As of now, we don't know what it means, and we are just now adopting this resolution. For me, even if you look at number 7, it speaks about the development of model laws. Just now, we spoke about model laws, and we adopted resolutions regarding model laws. And this is telling us that it is in violation of the protocol. What are we doing? And also, before we came to this Parliament, because this is my first year here, we heard of issues that there was issues of rotation that the Southern Caucus fought hard for, and were able to win that one. And now we are here being told that rotation is no longer is in violation of the protocol. What are we being told? We need such clarifications before we can adopt this resolution. For me personally, I understand nothing about this, and I'm being asked to be part of something that I don't understand. Thank you, Honorable President.
Contribution, hello, over there.
Thank you. Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Sr. Presidente, penso que esta resolução estão ultrapassadas. A frase simples aqui é que o protocolo é sobre constitucional. O regimento, todos concordamos que as leis deviam falar sobre a linguagem constitucional tal como protocolo. Portanto, se o protocolo e o regimento, as leis não estiverem a falar a mesma língua, nós temos que alinhar. A razão pela qual a Comissão de Regimento levou a cabo a tarefa de alinhar ou de conformar. Se algo não está compreensível para todos, portanto, temos o direito de solicitar clarificações, mas estas leis temos de ter a certeza de que elas estão em conformidade com o protocolo para que possamos avançar com o Parlamento. Porque visa promover a função normal do Parlamento, porque não podemos 10 passos à frente e 10 passos atrás. Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Sua Excelência Fanhó tem a palavra, por favor.
Mr. President.
Sr. Presidente.
Dear colleagues.
Yes.
Understand the reactions of some of the colleagues. In terms of the rules of procedure, we always have to consult our protocol, and in the Parliament, The rules need to be interpreted according to the protocol. And we can only have something different if we have a consultation and a specific reason for this. So we cannot do this without consultation. And it is clearly stated that there is a violation to the protocol. And I would therefore like to ask that when we had the discussion about aligning the rules of procedure with the protocol, we received legal advice, and this legal advice, as well as the alignment process, will allow us to move forward with the rules of procedure.
I want to check this side. Nobody? Yes, go ahead, Honorable.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. This resolution talks about aligning the rules of procedure with the protocol. And perhaps we have some questions by colleagues because we did not have the opportunity to debate this at length. And I agree with the Honourable from the DRC with regards to preambles 2 and 3. And I agree that we need to align with the protocol, but we do not need to insert all of this detail. And we need to align ourselves together with legal opinion.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you and all honorable members. Mr. President, I just want to make a few comments. Firstly, I fully align myself with the idea that there must be an alignment between our own rules and the protocol as a matter of principle. And I don't think that it should be difficult for us to understand the importance of that, because the protocol, as was presented and we discussed it in the Rules Committee, is the supreme law that regulates the affairs of the Pan-African Parliament. And therefore, naturally, any procedure or regulation that is inconsistent with the protocol has to be understood to be invalid and therefore ratified. However, it may very well be, Mr. President, that during the life of the Pan-African Parliament over the past few years, there were certain progressive positions that were adopted by the Pan-African Parliament in order to regulate its own affairs, which are now identified or deemed to be inconsistent with the current protocol. The question that we need to be seized with, and it may not be a matter that we finalize today, is what are those elements that over a period of time were introduced by Pan-African Parliament by consensus, by agreement, which were understood and accepted to be progressive, that are now identified as having tension with the primary law of the Pan-African Parliament. Just as an example, if the point that the honorable member was making there about the rotation as an example, I would imagine that the principle of a rotation as a principle is something progressive. And those who who presided over the process or who conceptualized the protocol may have not imagined that reality at the time at which the protocol was conceptualized. So what we need to then reflect and decide on how to handle as a Pan-African Parliament, what are the steps that were permitted to take in terms of our law to effect those changes that we deem to be progressive for the running of the Pan-African Parliament. But that doesn't mean that we should stand up or we should agree here to violate the protocol. The question must be, what are we going to do to influence the decision-making above us, which may include probably an amendment to the protocol itself at an appropriate platform, so that it takes into account and accommodate the realities that we now have understand over the period of time of the existence of the Pan-African Parliament. I think that is the approach that we should be taking. We should isolate those issues and take a position that these are some of the issues that we believe are progressive, but are said to be inconsistent with the protocol. What are we going to do to ensure that the protocol itself is aligned to take those factors into consideration? Because I think we all understand the protocol can't be a statue that cannot move. It's a document that was conceptualized under certain conditions, and our own lived experience must help us to inform whatever changes that help us to advance our own agenda. Thanks, Mr. President.
Hello, yes.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished members of the Pan-African Parliament, I have a few comments to make. I think that this is an extremely important resolution, and it is one that requires healthy debate. And we need to ensure that our rules of procedure are solid and that they lead us to becoming a legislative body and an example in Africa. And we have undertaken a process to align the rules of procedure with the protocol, and also with the African Union in general. In the past, we have had criteria and norms that have been imposed on us by the African Union. And we need to make sure that we are in accordance with democratic processes. Thank you.
I'm checking here. Honorable, is that a hand there? Yes? Is that a hand? After that, I'll come here, I'll go there.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have not debated the last point sufficiently before adopting this resolution. The Rules Committee was able to read its report, but we were not able to debate it, and that is why there are some MPs who are not able to fully understand this resolution. And therefore, I would like to request that there is more consultation between the committee and also within the various caucuses before adopting this resolution. This is the Pan-African Parliament, and we are aiming to be a legislative body. And so we cannot adopt rules of procedure that are not something that we have debated in Parliament.
Don't. Honorable Baja, then I go to Honorable Tony.
شكرا.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have listened to the presentation on the rules of procedure, but we were not able to debate this report, and this would be incorrect in a parliament to adopt something that has not been properly debated. So I would like to suggest that we postpone the adoption of this resolution to the next session so that we have sufficient time to debate it in plenary and within our caucuses, especially with regards to rotation.
Tony.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. President, I stand to make my voice in support of this recommendation forthwith. Mr. President, the reasons why I want to support these recommendations, Mr. President, is because I don't want to be part of a process that is seen to be in defiance and violating the protocol. Even in my country, I will never stand to defend anything that violates my constitution. Mr. President, this instrument, these recommendations are just a true reflection of what was submitted by the chairperson of the Rules Committee. The report of the Rules Committee, Mr. President, was distributed to all of us even before he made the presentation. We still have the report even now. So those who have not aligned themselves with the report, that could not be a blame to the process of the progress of these recommendations. Mr. President, I come from the Kingdom of Eswatini. The protocol was signed by my head of state. I will not do anything that will promote the violation of anything that my head of state signed. So we were advised that we need to align our rules of procedure to the protocol. There's no two ways about it. And these recommendations that I hear are just an exact extract of what was contained in the report of the Rules Committee for information purposes. Thank you, Mr. President.
We are back to debate whether we need a quorum or we don't need a quorum. It's almost the same debate. That other day we spent the whole day debating whether a quorum is part of the protocol of the rules. Now, did anyone want to take the floor? No, you don't take the floor twice, unfortunately. Hello, okay, I see two people. I see Honorable Sheriff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You know, I came a little bit late, but I just understood from the discussions that there's some confusion about the rotation. As far as I understand, rotation is, like we said, it's a 3-year period, it ends, and then comes the other caucus that should take the place in rotation. But what I understand today is that we're talking something that is going to remain till 2028 or something like that. I don't think this is within the spirit of what we agreed upon. That's the point I want to raise. Thank you.
Honorable Patrick. Sorry, I saw hand here.
He's not in.
Oh, Jean-Marie.
Merci, Excellent.
Thank you, Excellency. Honorable President of the Pan-African Parliament, thank you for giving me the floor. Yes, it is true that as the Pan-African Parliament, we have to conform to the protocol. No one can say the contrary. The details that the Secretariat and the clerk has inserted in this resolution are indeed necessary because that is what we were informed of by the legal counsel. And why did the legal counsel alert us in 2022? It was precisely because we were not aligned to the protocol. And so the aim of this exercise in revising the rules of procedure is to align to the protocol. So what is it that you do not understand, dear colleagues? If there is an article in the protocol with regards to the rotation, then we must conform to that article. We have to align to the protocol. And we are parliamentarians, and so we can express ourselves, we can ask for the floor, but then you need to tell me where the mistake is and where we have not aligned with the protocol.
I see two hands that side. And where? Okay, yes. And let me start from there. I go there. I go there. I go there. I go there.
Merci.
Now is, let's not go back to the debate like on election day for 2 days. We have debated, can we simply point critical issues rather than, as I said the other day, philosophizing? Talk of the law itself. What is the law and what should we be doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. If I remember correctly, the day the chairperson of this committee presented the report, we debated the whole report except for this last point. And then we broke for lunch. As a parliament, we are supposed to debate, and especially a point like this that concerns the Bureau and the Bureau's powers. You do need to allow the Parliament to discuss and debate every point included in a resolution. And when I see that the clerk taking the floor to present this resolution, the clerk was reminded that there was a resolution that had been forgotten. And of course, we don't want to violate the protocol. Of course, we must align to the protocol, but we must be able to debate every aspect of the resolution fully, Mr. President.
And we are debating. And that's what we are doing now. We are debating. There is no other debate different from the debate that is taking place. Is that Honorable Suleiman? No, Troy.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Honorable President, the way I see it is that these are resolutions. From practice, what I notice is that every time we have resolutions at the end of the session, those who are left behind here are the ones that resolve on behalf of the others. So the way I see this one in particular is that we all have constitutions at home. And it is the rule that anything that violates the constitution, the parliament cannot adopt anything that would violate the constitution. Anything that is in contradiction to the constitution or contrary to the constitution cannot be adopted by parliament. So since we've adopted something and then it has been identified that it is in violation of the protocol, which is our constitution, I don't think as parliamentarians we should delay this thing any further, but to just go ahead and acknowledge that they are in contradiction and we adopt it as such, so that all violations are removed and then be moved. As the member for Sudan has already said, South Sudan, if we want to influence changes, we should adopt a process in which we would adopt the changes to the protocol so that we'll have progressive procedure here as well. Thank you.
We need to move on. Points have been made already, whether for or against or whatever. Let's take note of everything that has been brought on the floor. And any further debate should only enhance or maybe provide more insights. I see all over there. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mine is very short. I want to support my fellow friend who just debated that we have our country constitution and the rules. So we have to go straight who is senior between the constitution and the rules. If it's the constitution, we have to focus on those rules. As my fellow friend said, then I'm supporting that. Let's do those two elements other than debating all the English. If the constitution is senior, let's focus what the constitution says. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Honorable Dr. Bettin. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I think that we have said what has needed to be said. We had the report presented, and that report has practically been transferred into the resolution that we see before us today. And what we see in the resolution is what was in the report, and that is aligning with the protocol. And if our rules of procedure are not in alignment with the protocol, there is nothing to be said. We need to align. And when we achieve the alignment, then there isn't an issue. I agree with the colleagues who say that we did not debate every aspect, but the protocol is the protocol and our rules need to align with the protocol. So whether we debated or not, we wouldn't have a choice but to align to the protocol. And I would like to motivate for the adoption of the resolution. And where there have been a lot of comments, we've received a lot of comments on rotation. And we can look at what is in the rules of procedure for the African Union, but I don't think that there's anything to be concerned about, because what we decided to do was to align to the protocol. And we are doing that right now. In terms of the application of the rules of procedure, if we see at the end of the current mandate that there are issues with applying the protocol in our rules of procedure, then we can raise this with the African Union. But the current exercise is to align to the protocol. So let us move forward with the adoption, because we cannot carry on without having rules of procedure that are in effect. And let us take it as a working document or a work in progress, and something that we can revisit in the future if we discover issues. So I would like to encourage colleagues to please accept the resolution, adopt the resolution, so that we can move forward. Thank you.
I think we can end the debate here. I just want to make clarifications. I want to make clarifications. First of all, Honorable Sheriff, nobody said in these proposals there will be no more rotation. If you listened to what the Rules Committee presented, there was nothing to say rotation is now what stopped. No. Rotation has come to PAP and will remain like that. It will not change. I want to avoid distortions. Rotation will not change. The same cycle of East is what? East, Central, West, South, to the North remains. That one remains. What you may not understand in this is, when we were instructed by the AU to include rotation in our rules, because they decided you should follow rotation, and we included in our amended rules, but the same people came and said, no, some of the things you have put in are violating the protocol. So the things that we put in the rules to make sure we have rotation, they said violated. But does not mean that there's no more rotation. I want to emphasize that point. Rotation has come and will remain forever. And nothing in these proposals is suggesting that there's no more rotation. But the legal counsel only said certain things that you brought in, like returning member, what is a vacancy, those things are wrong. In trying to bring rotation to the rules, they say what you then said was wrong, but not that rotation was wrong. And I want to keep repeating that point. Rotation, rotation, rotation. And we will move in the same cycle as was established. It is true, PAP was closed, suspended for not complying with the protocol. PAP was said to be violating the protocol. The issue of model laws, yes, it was in the legal counsel. When we put in our own amendments, we said the PAP will be making model laws. The legal counsel said, no, we are not supposed to say that. But we still make model laws through our advisory powers. And I think that remains. We'll still do model laws. What they don't want is for us to say in the rules we've put, I don't know why, but it's contentious, of course. But legal opinion said no. You are putting something in your rules of making model laws which is not in the protocol. But we come and say we make model laws because we have consultative and advisory powers. That they have no problem, because that is in the protocol. Advisory, consultative is in the protocol, and we make model laws under that. but not to give ourselves a standing. That's what they said. And the instruction is that we should comply. So we're just complying. If it offends you, unfortunately, it is not the Bureau, it's not the Secretariat, it's not this PAP. These things came from people who have whipped us, who have closed this parliament for saying we do not comply. I know you want to say the Bureau or whoever. No. It's not correct. But on that note, I will give Honorable Gayo, because he has expressed interest, to say something.
Motion. Point of order, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I would like to congratulate this House, the Bureau, the Secretariat, for recommending to respect the protocol of the African Union, on which we cannot debate. Whatsoever, we don't have power to change, to amend, to correct it, because we don't have power. The power belongs to our head of states. The only possibility, the only thing what we can do, there is, if you can go and read Protocol Article 24, it gives us an opportunity to ask the head of states to amend that protocol or article which is not suiting Pan-African Parliament. At this stage, we don't have that power. Excellencies, we are not compromising with rotations. Rotation is there. We are talking about Article 12.3. The tenure of the Bureau runs with the national parliament of respective countries. That should be respected, and now we are respecting it. At this stage, Excellencies, the Pan-African Parliament, we are correcting our past mistakes. For the last few years, we kept on violating our own rules. That's why nobody is respecting us. When we go to African Union, they are not respecting us. They are not listening to us. They always think Pan-African Parliament is unmanageable, is not listening to the head of state, to the council. Yes, should not be entertained anymore, no longer for that. Excellencies, it's high time. We might have some discomfort. Let's keep our personal emotions and work in the best interest of the continent and the best interest of the parliament. Excellencies, it's high time. It's time to ask you to adapt this one and move forward. I submit, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Then there was a contribution which was saying we are amending.
I have a motion.
Yes, I'll give you the floor. At the right time.
Give me the floor.
Yes, I'll give you the floor at the right time. I see some people now want to be a bit violent, and I think that method is not the method to use. What we should know is that no one in this room is amending the protocol or amending the rules. No one. No one is amending these rules. And that's why someone said, to amend the rules, we need to have 2/3. No. We are not amending the rules ourselves. We are simply complying with the directive from police organs which said the following rules are a violation. And if something is a violation, we have no choice here. We don't vote for it. It's like we can't vote for the protocol ourselves. It is the member states, not PAP, But there are some rules which PAP can amend, but not the protocol. Some rules, yes, we can amend and we have the power to do that with a 2/3 majority, but not to pass something that is against the protocol. That power we don't have. I want to be very clear. A violation of the protocol is not negotiable in this house. We have to comply. And a report will be given in February whether PAP has complied or not. So when you say, let's do it next year in May, no. This decision was passed in February 2024. And in July, in Ghana, the Executive Council asked, has PAP complied? An excuse was given that, okay, give us more time. In Ghana in July, give us more time, we'll come and report in February next year. So for anyone to look at my face or face of the Bureau and anyone and think that we are the ones, nothing, we are not the ones. Go and read the documents by the Rules Committee. They show you that it is not coming from this parliament. It's coming from up there to say, please do this. And if we don't do it, we'll be saying PAP is refusing. And as a president of PAP, I don't want that image. You may not like the provisions, but does the Bureau have power to reject? We don't have. If you don't believe, please go to the Rules Committee. They will give you the legal opinion, the Executive Council decision on PAP to align. It's there. And it's not us who chose which violation. No, the violations were listed by the legal opinion to the Executive Council. It's not our choice. We are not the ones who said this one violates. No, it's coming from up there. So when we debate, what are we? Who are we trying to target in this room? Who are we targeting to say you are the one who caused? You are the one who wrote this. There's nobody in this room who caused this, or who caused the direction that we were violating. Please, I think there are other issues that we need to sit down as MPs and friends over a cup of tea. We discuss how can we do this. That's better, but not to challenge in this house any issue of violation of the law. We can debate, we can dislike, we can hate whoever, but none in this room has caused PAP to align, to remove violations. I didn't like myself the legal opinion when it came out. I challenged it personally when it came out, but they took it to the Executive Council. And the Executive Council then directed the PAP. I want to be honest, when it came out, I was against that legal opinion myself. I attacked it. But I didn't succeed because then they used the Executive Council to direct PAP. And who I am? I'm just a president of PAP here, coming from Zimbabwe, and I have no powers to say no. So don't target the wrong people. As they say in English, don't back the wrong tree. Don't back the wrong tree. We are the wrong tree. I want to emphasize that point. And we have to report in February that PAP complied with the directives, not to say we refused. So when you say next year, we are fiscally defying, we are saying no to the Executive Council. We are saying no. I think on this stage, we have debated. Look, it's a matter of member states. You can go to your member states and say, amend this protocol. Not to ask me to change what is in the protocol. I have no power, the Bureau has no power. At this stage, I need a mover who moves for adoption and a seconder, and we see how we proceed. Honorable Zaparara.
Il y a une motion.
Honorable Zaparara.
I have a motion.
I should also mention lastly that, please take your floor, listen to what I'm saying. Listen first. Can you listen? Please, on this motion, we cannot vote on this one because it's not like, although I feel that those who want it are the majority, but we can't vote because we cannot vote on something that is in the protocol. It's the member states who can vote. We can't vote on a thing that is a violation of the protocol. We can't vote. We can talk and talk, but we cannot change the protocol. And the motion that you're asking from me, I'm saying please direct it to your member states. It's fair, not to me. Please, it's not for me. It's not for the Bureau. We were also directed to change these things, to remove the violations.
Motion d'ordre. Motion d'ordre.
No, this one is closed. To the next
Motion d'ordre.
Where we debate.
Point of order. A motion of order. A motion.
Clarification. I want a clarification from you, Mr. President.
Okay, fine. Clarification. No, that one first. And clarification.
I need just a clarification.
But it's adopted already, but clarification.
Clarification, please.
Clarification.
Please, okay. Mr. President, of course I understand that rotation is here to stay.
Yes.
I never debated that. All what I understood, maybe I understood wrongly, but what I understood when the clerk was presenting, that if you are a president of the PAP and your term in your national parliament remains another 5 years, then you remain as president till you finish your national parliament. Is that true or not?
It's not me. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
It's not me saying that.
Who said that?
Can you read the legal opinion in the protocol?
Yeah, who said that?
Can you read the protocol itself? What does it say? Read the protocol. Read the protocol, not me. I'm not saying so. Read the protocol.
But this is totally
what the
out of the spirit of what we agreed upon. This is totally out of the spirit.
Fine.
You cannot remain 5 years as president.
No, my friend, my honorable brother. My honorable brother, let's be honest. Let's be honest to ourselves.
I'm very honest with myself. I'm very honest with myself. Very honest.
Excellency, allow us the floor.
It's in the protocol.
The PAP remains 3 years.
I know.
You can't argue with the president on the seat. We can't argue with the president. Respect the president. Respect the president.
Egypt, you still take the presidency after Southern region. No one is saying no to that.
We're not saying Egypt,
yes,
or Tunisia, or
because
Morocco,
some of you
or
now
Algeria
are making noise because you want to play jobs tomorrow.
I'm debating one point, Mr. President.
No.
I'm not debating.
Read the protocol, not me.
I am not debating the rotation. I am debating what has been said, that you remain in president as long as you are a member of your national parliament.
Can I clarify?
This is not acceptable.
Can I clarify? Honorable Dr. Sharif. Honorable Dr. Sharif.
Yes, Mr. President.
I'm saying if I don't think there is anything that they've said which removes rotation. And if it is there, it is wrongly then worded. Because I know for sure that rotation cannot be compromised. The only sentence is that what we did ourselves in putting rotation was rude and a violation only. But the rotation remains. That I want to underline. That.
We are not in disagreement. Rotation is there. It is the period of the president.
Not for me. That is not for me to decide.
Who decides that? Who decides? Who decides that?
Mr. President. The laws, not me.
President, motion.
Mr. President. Ask the executive council.
Motion. Mr. President. Président, motion.
Mr. President,
nous n'avons pas le quorum pour siéger. Le quorum.
We do not have the quorum to sit, Mr. President. We do not have the quorum to sit, Mr. President. There is an issue with the quorum.
Motion.
Sorry, no motion. Honorable Habib.
Salam alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to reaffirm here that this issue was not debated. You've presented the subject, but we did not debate it like other resolutions. Now it is not possible to consider to take into account this debate because the number of parliamentarians present here is very low. And according to the law, we cannot adopt this resolution with such a few number of parliamentarians. So I would suggest, I have a proposal. I would suggest that we do not adopt this recommendation and that we take it back to our national parliaments, discuss it with our national parliaments and legal experts, and then come back in the next session. Thank you.
Yes, yes, I hear you. I hear you, Quorum, I hear you. Fine. Can you put your hands down?
Yes, Mr. President.
You want to make progress? Yes. I just want to say this point. We do not vote whether we like something in the protocol or not so that we throw it away. We don't have that mandate. So this issue of protocol is for information. Yes. It's for information. It's not for us to vote. It's information to say this clause violates this clause. And we cannot say, okay, let's vote to make it good. No. It's not, it's the heads of states who can vote, not ourselves. If something is a violation, whether it's just for information, because it's for information, it's not about quorum. It's just, I can go to caucuses and inform these people in a caucus before the podcast, because it is not about voting. It's not for us to decide whether we like it or not. So whether quorum or no quorum is not important. This is just to inform members of parliament that this is a violation and it's wrong. It's illegal. Honorable Chairperson of Western Caucus.
Yes, thank you, Honorable President. Honorable members, I think we just need to read our own rules and read the protocol and understand. We are just wasting our time arguing on something. In our own constitution, in our countries, let's reflect in our own constitutions, in our own countries, and our own standing orders in our own countries. It's very clear that any act of parliament that you make, including your own standing orders, that is not in line with the national constitution, to the extent of that consistency, is null and void. Now, AU said on Article 5, let me read, on the protocol, that's the constitution that created PAP. On Article 5, it says, elections, tenure, and vacancies. The term of a member of parliament shall run concurrently with his or her term in national parliament or other deliberative organ. Then it continues on Article 12. That's the protocol. It says the terms of office of the president and the vice presidents shall run with the national parliament or the deliberative organ which elects or designates them. That is the constitution that created PAP. Then how can we come here as members of parliament, try to change that? We have done that in 2011, but it's wrong. AU says, go and align. We are not amending the protocol. AU saying, go and align your rules with the constitution. So where is the debate or where is the voting? What we have right now, since 2011, is not consistent. And we've been called to order. In fact, Honorable President, for me, I think it's an embarrassment. When somebody outside PAP would tell you your rules are wrong, it's an embarrassment to all of us. We should have corrected that in 2011, and we should have corrected that in 2022 when the rules are suspended, simply because, one, it was in contravention to the protocol. So what are we debating? What are we voting? They said, correct your own rules and move on. Thank you.
Président, je demande la parole.
Mr. President, I'm asking for the floor.
Adopted. Yes, adopted. We move to the
Président, donnez-moi la parole.
Mr. President, can you give me the floor? Please give me the floor. Give me the floor, Mr. President. Please, Mr. President.
Président.
Please, Mr. President, please. There is a problem of quorum. To sit. To sit.
Ça, c'est la force. C'est la force. Ça, c'est un coup de...
Honorable President.
President,
Madam Clerk, proceed.
I need point of view, please.
Madam Clerk, proceed, please.
Honorable President, the first recommendation is the recommendation on the joint seminar on Agenda 2063, Fostering an Africa Fit for Children. After 7 preambular provisions, the Pan-African Parliament hereby recommends to the African African Union member states, to 1, on strengthening legal frameworks, 1, review and update national laws in alignment with international standards.
Madam Clerk, I propose you just read the heading, guys, not the bullets.
Now hereby recommends to the African Union member states to 1, strengthen legal frameworks, 2, increase financing, increase funding and resources, 3, enhance data collection and research, 4, promote family-based care. I'll amend the numbers as I go. 6, empower children and youth. 7, foster collaboration among stakeholders. 7, enhance access to education and health services. 8, increase awareness and prevention campaigns. 9, strengthen reporting and response mechanisms. Adopted in Midrand, Republic of South Africa on 15 November 2024.
Any contributions on that one?
S'il vous plaît, Monsieur le Président.
None? No. Yes.
Mr. President, I would like to draw the attention of members that there are treaties and protocols whose signing and ratification are really late. Before speaking about enhancing the legal framework, we must put as the first recommendation to accelerate and finalize the signing and the ratification of the present legal treaties. I thank you.
It's a good comment. We first encourage member states to ratify the protocols before we strengthen the legal framework. Good point. Any other contribution on this one? None. Adopted. That's agreed to. The next recommendation.
Honorable President, recommendation number 2 is a recommendation on the advocacy mission to promote ratification of the protocol on the rights of older persons, the protocol on the rights of persons with disabilities, and the protocol on social protection and social security. After the preamble, the Pan-African Parliament hereby recommends as follows. 1, to the authorities of Côte d'Ivoire, accelerate the ratification of the protocols and integrate them into national legislation. 2, strengthen awareness and training to inform parliamentarians, civil servants, and the general public about the rights of vulnerable groups and the significance of these protocols. 3, facilitate interinstitutional collaboration through cooperation mechanisms amongst relevant ministries and civil society organizations to ensure coordinated implementation of policies and programs supporting vulnerable populations. And 4, promote inclusive policies that guarantee equitable access to security services, education, and employment for older persons, persons with disabilities, and other marginalized groups. 2, to the Ivorian Parliament. 1, establish a monitoring and evaluation mechanisms through its Gender Equality Committee to assess the impact of measures taken to support vulnerable groups. 2, organize annual presentations of national reports on the state of human rights by commissions, councils, to ensure citizens' concerns are effectively addressed, given Parliament's role as a bridge between the population and policymakers. 3, to the National Human Rights Council, 1, encourage the participation of vulnerable persons in the development and implementation of programs that affect them to ensure their voices and needs are represented. 2, strengthen advocacy efforts with Ivorian authorities by raising awareness on urgency of ratifying the protocols related to the protection of vulnerable groups' rights. 4, to civil society, 1, mobilize stakeholders by partnering with other civil society organizations, human rights groups, and community organizations to intensify advocacy efforts for the ratification of the protocols, and develop joint strategies to make concrete recommendations to the government to expedite the ratification of the protocols, adopted in Midrand, South Africa on the 15th November 2024.
Thank you. Any debate on this one?
Yes, Mr.
Honorable Fanyo.
Yes, Honorable Chair and dear colleague, if you agree with me, I'd like to add on 0.5, which the study of the report requested that PAP should take ownership of this mission in Côte d'Ivoire and extend it to other caucuses and member countries concerned. Thank you very much.
None adopt, sorry, Honorable Mariam.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Just a correction on point 2 of the recommendations. It's a recommendation, but to the Pan-African Parliament, not to the Ivorian Parliament.
Thank you. Noted. Any other comment? If no comment, then adopted. Merci beaucoup. The clerk will read the next recommendation.
Honorable President, the next recommendation is recommendation on the state of financing of the African Union. There's an error there, state of financing in the English version. After the preamble, the Parliament now hereby recommends 1, to the national parliaments of the African Union member states to 1, urge their respective governments where applicable, to abide by decision of the Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 2027, of the Assembly of the African Union to institute and implement a 0.2% levy on all eligible imported goods into the continent to finance the African Union operational program and peace support operations. 2, when considering the national budget, ensure that the adequate resources are provided for payment by member states of the African Union, assessed contributions and effective implementation of Decision 605. 3, enact or, where applicable, review their national legislative frameworks to ensure that laws and regulations give effect to Decision Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 27, of the Assembly of the African Union to institute and implement a 0.2 levy on all eligible goods into the continent to finance the African Union operational program and peace support operations. 4, exercise effective oversight of the government's action or inaction in respect of fulfillment of its financial obligations under Decision Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 27, and Decision Executive Council Decision 1268, Roman numeral XLV, and other African Union policy decisions for effective financing of the vision and aspirations of Agenda 2063, as well as programs and activities of the Union. 5, work with the Pan-African Parliament to strengthen the capacity of parliamentarians on their central role in creating an enabling environment for effective domestic implementation of international and regional commitments and decisions, providing budgetary support for state action on human rights issues, and for oversight of state adherence to its obligations, as well as in representing the views and aspirations of the African people and peoples and citizens. To the African Union Commission, to 1, regularly submit to the Pan-African Parliament an updated status of the financing of the African Union, including the status of the state's compliance with Decision Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 27, to enable the Parliament to mobilize its members and national parliaments for timely payment of assessed contributions of member states. 2, support the Pan-African Parliament with adequate resources to enable it to effectively mobilize its members and national parliaments in addressing the challenges relating to the implementation of Decision Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 27, and other related policy decisions. 3, work with the Pan-African Parliament in conducting an audit of legal and institutional frameworks of member states to ascertain their responsiveness to Decision Assembly AU Decision 605, Roman numeral 27, and Decision Executive Council Decision 1268, Roman numeral XLV, and other African Union policy decisions with a view to ensuring harmonization or coordination of laws of member states in relation to financing of the African Union. And 4, ensure that candidates to the positions of the chairperson and deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission interact with the Pan-African Parliament to ensure an effective participation of African peoples through their representatives in decision-making and designation of African Union leaders, adopted in Midrand, South Africa, 15 November 2024.
Yeah.
Any contributions on this one?
Yes, Mr. President.
Honorable Mbo.
Yes, thank you very much for this resolution. I think, Honorable Speaker, in as much as the national parliaments actually have a responsibility to urge our member states to pay or to respect the decision, I equally think we need to add to the African Union Commission that they need to regularly submit the budget of the African Union to the PAP, where we can debate, where we can understand the monies our countries actually pay, where it is going to. Number two, I think it's also equally important that we urge the African Union to present the audited report of the Union, because these monies that they spent came from our countries. So when we push our countries to pay, the Union must tell us how they spend the money at the end of the year. So I think we should add that the submission of the budget and also the submission of the audited accounts to the Pan-African Parliament, where we know where the monies we appropriate actually is going to. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Soleil. No.
Suleiman is very popular. Thank you very much, Mr. President. On point one, I have a problem in the first line, which says, urge their respective governments where applicable. So I believe wherever we have parliaments, we also have governments. So there is no question about that. So I think the word where applicable, we should just take that out and maintain that urge their respective governments to abide by the decision, etc. And then if you come to the next page, 30 in English version, point 3, line 4, where it says, with a view to ensuring harmonization or coordination. I believe that it should not be either, it should be and. We want both harmonization and coordination of the laws of the member states. So that's how I want it to read. Thank you. Instead of or, we just put and there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay.
Yes, on the first one he mentioned about the respective governments where applicable, I think it's correct. Because 35 countries actually are already abiding by the 0.2% decision. They're already abiding by that. So this one is referring to those that are not abiding by that 0.2%. So I think number one is okay.
Thank you, thank you. Any other? Honorable Vice President, Dr. Gayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's important to include that to seek the head of state, the African Union, to authorize Pan-African Parliament to raise funds and utilize. Because last time we asked the deputy chairperson, it's a policy issue, it should be addressed to the head of state and the assembly. So at this stage, it's important to seek for the authorization. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other contribution? None. Adopted. Madam Clerk.
Honorable President, the next recommendation is recommendation on the report of the African Risk Capacity Agency. After 6 preambular paragraphs, the Pan-African Parliament hereby recommends 2 national parliaments. 1, urge their respective governments to initiate the process of signature and ratification or accession should be to the African Risk Capacity Treaty in order to enable access by the state to the various benefits of this treaty, including capacity building programs, contingency planning tools, early warning systems, and the African Risk Capacity Insurance risk pool for drought, tropical cyclones, outbreaks, and epidemics and floods. 2, prioritize, where applicable, parliamentary action and advocacy for the ratification and domestication of the ARC Treaty. 3, call upon all member states to actively engage with the ARC, or the African Risk Capacity, and leverage on its technical assistance, briefings, and knowledge-sharing opportunities to make informed decisions on disaster risk management. 4, ensure adequate resource allocation from the national budgets to support the African Risk Capacity's activities, given the critical importance of disaster risk management in protecting populations and saving lives and livelihoods. 5, strengthen collaboration with the African Risk Capacity for the protection of the vulnerable African populations from impacts of extreme weather events, natural and other disasters. Adopted in Midrand, Republic of South Africa, 15 November 2024.
Thank you. Any debate? Honorable Fagnon.
Monsieur le Président. Honorable President, dear colleague, once ARC has recognized the importance of the PAP or the PAP to ensure coordination to interact for the promotion of the Pan-African Parliament, I'd like to propose that on point 6, if you agree, that we say agree and adopt between PAP and the ARC a strategy and an intervention action plan with substantial financial resources that would enable PAP to interact for the promotion and the development of the Pan-African Pan-African risk capacity movement. Thank you.
Any hand over there? No. Okay, here, yes. Honorable Yusuf.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. السيد الرئيس، بخصوص هذه التسوية أو هذه التوصية الخاصة بمواجهة المخاطر، نعرف نحن في القارة الأفريقية هناك العديد من المخاطر.
In Africa, there are so many disasters that Africa witnesses, but unfortunately, the African Union and with the disasters that Africa has been experiencing, the action has been participation very reduced. The report that was presented talked about risks and dangers, so we need to set up mechanisms with the African Union so that we can, in the future, for example, when there was a disaster in Sudan, since it's a country that is friendly to Libya, there was no state that wanted to provide them support. But unfortunately, there wasn't any, African Union wasn't present at all. So we need to add further weight to inside African Union to establish contacts so that the government can combat these risks. Thank you very much.
Any interest, Dr. Gayo, Honorable Vice President?
Mr. President, I have a problem with the nomenclature itself. It says African Risk Capacity Agency. Maybe I can understand if it's a risk management capacity, but risk capacity, what does it mean? Maybe this question is not for you or not for the plenary, but should be addressed to the AU itself. I thank you.
Thank you. Take a note of. Honorable Suleiman.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, on 4, I think this area is very critical to ensure adequate resources allocation from the national budget to support ARC activities. Not only activities, but many a times when disaster occurs, governments will be running helter-skelter to look for funding from outside the continent or outside, their countries. So every country must budget. There must be a budget line for disaster in case it occurs, you can rush and get those funds before other people help you. So, but if you don't have anything in your budget line, you wait until disaster occurs, you start begging people, your house might be on fire. So I think this fourth part is very important for us as parliamentarians. When we go back home, we advocate for budget allocation for disaster. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other expression of interest to take the floor? No. So adopted. Agreed and adopted. Next recommendation.
Honorable President, the next recommendation is a recommendation on the state of Africa's integration. After 6 preambular paragraphs, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby, and I will insert in the English version, resolves to recommend, now hereby resolves to recommend to the national parliaments to 1, facilitate trade facilitation between countries to ensure the easy movement of people and goods across borders, including by implementing one-stop border posts and streamlining customs procedures. 2, implement the legal and institutional frameworks that promote and support industrialization and the production of manufactured goods and enable intra-African trade. 3, move beyond the mere. I think we introduce an amendment to remove the word just, move beyond the mere developing of transport corridors to focus on establishing growth and development corridors to facilitate investments in processing and value addition of Africa's mineral resources and other raw materials. 4, encourage national institutions to pursue regional cooperation and coordination to advance the industrialization agenda across the continent. 5, leverage regional frameworks and platforms like the AFCFTA to promote the development of regional value chains, identify opportunities for cross-border collaboration and integration of production processes. 6, invest in regional infrastructure, energy and digital connectivity projects to enable the seamless flow of goods, services, and information across borders, which will support regional value chain development. 7, work towards the adoption of a uniform language that unites African peoples as a whole, adopted in Midrand, Republic of South Africa, 15th of November, 2024.
Thank you very much. Any contributions on this one, Honorable Toure?
Thank you very much, Honorable President. First of all, I have something to say about integration, which is in relation to security. I've not seen anything there that deals with how would the African countries work together to secure their people from external aggression. That is something that we need to think of. Secondly, on 7, when it comes to language, I believe we have languages that are marked in Africa, African languages that are marked. So I believe that when we use language, we just say to develop languages that would unify African states. instead of language, because if you say one language, that will be very difficult to do. But we have languages in each region that are big languages, and that can unify those regions. For example, if you go to West Africa, you will have Malinke, Mandinka is there. You also have Fulani. I think those are the big languages in West Africa, and Hausa. So when you come to South Africa, too, you have another language, like, I don't know, Swahili, etc., etc. So let's use languages instead of one language. It is almost impossible to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, any other, Honorable Fanyon.
Honorable President, I would not like to repeat what my colleague said, but I'd like to draw the attention that to the fact that we should not adopt one language. If we want to adopt one language, then why not adopt Yoruba instead of Swahili? I respect you, but I also like that Yoruba or Hausa be adopted. So we should better talk about regional languages. We should better talk about promoting regional languages. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm not responding, but I think the issue of languages, we can only suggest to add on to what our heads of state have already decided upon, which is Swahili. So if you want Yoruba to also to become one of the major languages, I think the PAP can make recommendations to the heads of state, because that type of decision, which are the continental languages, we can only make a recommendation. It's a head of state function. Any contributions to the right? I can't see who. To the right of Honorable Suleiman. Yes. Yeah, you're right, yes.
Okay, gracias, señor presidente. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, from Equatorial Guinea. My problem is with the number 1 in the Spanish version, of course, that will say in Spanish, we don't use the reiteration in the definition of the first part. That's why I suggest to erase that first part, and which be to facilitate the trade between countries to ensure it will continue the rest of the sentence, just to eliminate the first part, which facilitate the facilitation reiteration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The drafters will consider that. Is any other contribution? Mr. President? Yes, where I can see.
Okay. Honorable Président, je crois que
Honorable President, at least as far as the French version is concerned on point 3, I don't know why we focus on mineral resources instead of talking about natural resources as a whole, because when we have the ways, we need to enhance it and to develop it and process it into paper. So we need to talk about natural resources, even if we have to focus on mineral resources. That's number 1. Number 2, as regards to language, I think we are the African Union. When we talk about the union, we talk about unity. So our objective is to have one language. We're not going to use sub-regional or national languages, but what is the language we have to use in the assembly without interpreters? And this language can be developed by our experts by involving Yoruba, Swahili, and so forth to develop one language. The Europeans took 50 years to develop one language. So we can take 50 years to develop one language that brings together all the words of our dialect. We can't talk about unity and have about 10 or 25 or 10 languages. So the way it is worded, I agree with it. Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the chance. I want to support what the last speaker said about language. What is language really? I think in language, we want to be able to communicate between ourselves and amongst ourselves. If we develop very many languages, we develop more barriers between ourselves. And I think the heads of state were wise to say, we need a language of communication. Mr. President, at the moment, we are not using any African language. We are using English, which was a colonialist language. We are using French, another colonialist language. We are using Portuguese. There is nothing African about it. The Africanness of Kiswahili is the fact that it does not belong to any ethnic group. It doesn't. Even Tanzania, that is dominantly, that speaks Kiswahili dominantly, that is not really their language. It is a language that is a mixture of Arabic. If you listen, there is some Bantu, there is some Nilotic words. It was a trade and a business language. So it was not a language that was tribal. So we should not worry about Kiswahili as if it belongs to a certain group. The beauty again with Kiswahili is the fact that it has spread a little bit more than any other language. But it was a language for business, for trade, and for communication. So I would really like to support that we promote one language for our own basic communication. And if we can promote that, we should be moving even forward to teach it to our children across the continent so that we have one language we call the African language. So I really support that it should be one language and we should promote one African language that when we go to international conferences, they actually translate using that language. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Any other debate on this one? Honorable Suleiman?
Thank you, Your Excellency. Language is very, very integral in the
اللغة هي جزء لا يتجزأ من تحرير القارة أو المجتمعات.
Of your own people, it will be difficult to understand the language of other people. But I think Africa, we need to make a test on the languages. It's far too long. Nkrumah and other pioneers, they spoke about it, one language for Africa. Why is it that up to now we cannot set a pace? We need to make a trial. If we cannot have it for the whole continent, now the regions should make a test on it. Like the common language in regions, they should try to use that as a means of communication. Like what you said, Swahili. Yes, Swahili is a combination of Arabic, and we all know that Arabic is foreign to Africa. But we have to see the combination of other languages as well. So, for example, in West Africa now, Nko, which is Mandinka, now is taught in schools. They are spreading, they are moving. As I'm speaking to you, in my constituency now, there are people from Mali who are trying to establish schools all over so that they teach them. So people are making efforts. So what of the union? The union must be very serious and they must mobilize resources for this. We make a trial on the regions or on the caucasus. If Southern believe that there is a language that is common that can be easily used, they should start it. And we use it in our communication. I think with that, then we can form a common one. But it will be difficult right now if we want to say Swahili, when in my area, they have gone with Nko, and most of the countries are speaking Nko. So I think we need to look at this thing in a more serious note.
Honorable Fanyo?
Honorable President, I didn't want to start any controversy here, but language is an aspect of sociology, and the promotion of a language is an ideal. In the Gulf of Guinea region, it's better not to mention a formula that would impose a language on our community. What I'm saying about is that for it to be promoted, we have accepted. Our communities will not accept that a language be imposed on them, like my colleagues, my previous colleagues said. Thank you very much.
It was a healthy debate. Honorable Stuki.
Thank you, Honorable President. I'm tempted to speak in Siswati. I've had the debates, and I am saying that whilst we're talking of language, we should not forget to also add sign language and Braille so that everybody follows what we are saying. I thank you, President.
Thank you. That is brilliant. This, I think, brings to the end expressions of interest. Can we then know where is the person? Where? Proceed.
Nakushukuru Mheshimiwa Rais.
Let me thank you. I want to speak in Swahili, but those who are campaigning on the importance of Swahili, let me support everything that has been said by a professor from Kenya. One of the issues that we take for granted is the cost on which we used to come. From the Bureau, we've used quite a huge cost. The cost that we use from the Bureau and the discussions. So if there will be no money, I think nothing is going to happen in this Parliament. One of the strategies we need to use, and the long-term strategies as Africa, we need to remove the cost of communication. And those who have, our colonialists use all means to, you can remember the Tower of Babel. Those who constructed that tower to go to heaven, they were confused. They lost the language to communicate. So those who want us not to develop, they love their language. Our Swahili is important to us because it is our language, it is our property. There's nowhere you can speak Swahili and somebody, unlike in English, when you speak English, someone will want to look like, so if you speak French, if you speak Portuguese, you look like you are you look so different. But if you speak Swahili, you belong to Africa. So let me urge all of you that the cost of, putting together all these languages, and that in Africa, for the next 20 years, all countries in Africa need to speak Swahili so that we remove the cost of translating our documents. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I believe that you're going to support me and that we are going to make an effort to remove language barriers and we work cohesively to improve our countries. Thank you so much. As the African president, I speak Swahili. I speak a little Swahili. I want a Swahili tutor to polish my Swahili.
Any other interests? But she made a very valid point. The highest cost of a session is interpretation and in translation. A session costs us almost $500,000 US on interpretation and translation. So she is right that we could minimize. But in the European Parliament, they use about 25 to 28 languages during a session like this, simultaneous interpretation. It's actually more expensive in Europe, but we can reduce the cost in Africa, of course. Can we adopt this recommendation? Thank you, Asante Sana.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado. We move to the next recommendation.
Honorable President, the next recommendation is the recommendation on the state of industrialization in Africa. After the preamble, the Pan-African Parliament now hereby recommends to the national parliaments to 1, adopt legislative frameworks which support effective industrial policies, including fiscal, monetary, and financing policies. 2, explore all possible avenues to finance industrial activities and entrepreneurship, especially for women and the youth. 3, prioritize laws and other parliamentary initiatives that promote regional cooperation for greater development of regional value chains. 4, urges African governments, it should read, to implement the necessary measures to boost economy-wide productivity using science, technology, and innovative capabilities. 5, exercise effective oversight over the implementation of infrastructure projects to unlock industrialization, as well as government spending on infrastructure projects. 6, adopt laws and other measures that facilitate trade between countries to ensure ease of movement of people and goods, and reinforce growth and development corridors that facilitate investments in processing and value addition of minerals. 7, ensure that African governments address the dual priorities of productivity and labor-intensive industrialization to absorb the large skills base outside the formal economy, adopted in Midrand, Republic of South Africa, 15th November 2024.
Thank you. Any additions, Honorable Felix?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I have a comment on point 4. We underlined the fact that industrial development and industrialization should be based on developing the labor market. And here we talk about using skills and competence, but we said we need to develop these skills and competence before we can use them. And in terms of another recommendation that was made by our colleague from the DRC, we need investment in transformation of our natural resources as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other contribution? Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, regarding the recommendation number 4 about industrialization in Africa, there is a point that hasn't been mentioned, which is urging the government to create an enabling environment to create free zones. We know that trade and industry without free zones within the African continent would be not existed. That's why establishing free zones is very important. All other continents sought to establish free zones. So I would hope to establish free zones to urge the member states to create an environment to establish free zones. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 points to contribute. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I would like to draw your attention to the importance of completing point 2 explore all necessary avenues to finance the industrialization activities and entrepreneurship to support women and the youth and to protect investment. I would like us to add, if you agree, in point 8, that we need to take adequate measures to ensure the availability of natural resources and that industry have access to these natural resources and that there is proper remuneration for the producers. And we need to promote the creation of special economic zones and industrial hubs. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are done. Adoption. Thank you. The clerk will proceed with the next item.
The next item, Honorable President, is the declaration on solidarity with Palestine. After 8 preambular paragraphs, the Pan-African Parliament now therefore resolves: 1, condemns strongly the recent banning of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, UNWA, operations by Israel, recognizing the essential humanitarian role of the agency in providing aid and support to millions of Palestinian refugees. 2, supports the United Nations Security Council Resolution number 2735, proposing a comprehensive 3-phased ceasefire deal to end the war in Gaza, urging both Israel and Hamas to implement it fully without delay and condition. 3, also supports the case brought before the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, by South Africa against Israel for genocide, emphasizing the importance of holding Israel accountable instead of accountability, accountable for its violations of international law. 4, welcomes the United Nations General Assembly Resolution GA 626, of 18 September 2024, calling for an end to Israel's open quote, unlawful, close quote, occupation within 12 months. And 5, stands in solidarity with Palestinians to promote awareness and advocate for the rights of the Palestinian people and to foster collaboration on initiatives aimed at supporting their struggle for peace, freedom, and justice. Adopted in Midrand, South Africa on 15 November 2024.
Right, any Honorable Baja.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. In my name and in the name of my country, Algeria, I would like to thank you, Mr. Chief Sharon Bera, for your support for the Palestinian cause and adopting the declaration on the solidarity with the Palestinian people and the call to an immediate cessation of fire and to end the continuous aggression on Palestine and humanity. Mr. President, we must enhance awareness to defend the rights of the Palestinian people and to support cooperation and initiatives aimed to support their struggle for peace, freedom, and justice. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Shukran. Honorable start from there. Honorable
Yusri Baweb من تونس.
Honorable Yusri Bawabi from Tunisia.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. شكرا.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for adopting this declaration, and we would like to thank all the dear honorable members, and we thank you for this position. Tunisia is like any other free country around the world, seeking freedom and dreaming about Palestine free, and the Palestinian people to be in the best, to live in the best condition and have the sovereignty over its territories. But, Mr. President, here I don't know. Recently, we were talking about languages, and we said that English, French, Portuguese languages are languages of colonization. But here we are embarrassed to describe the Israeli occupation as illegal, and we put it in two quotes. We don't know, is the occupation legal? So we put illegal in two quotes. All occupations are illegal. This is an existential matter, and this is a humanitarian matter. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I personally agree with you that the word illegal should not be in courts. It's just illegal. No, not in court. So I think that I agree. The drafters will take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. President. All appreciation for what you have presented and in this session, and especially adoption of this declaration that it is about solidarity with the Palestinian people who are subjected to mass genocide and daily massacres that are suffered by these people. We should show solidarity with these people for what they are experiencing by the illegal entity of occupation. All the thanks to the dear honorables who will adopt this declaration. Thank you very much.
Honorable Fagnon.
Monsieur le Président,
Thank you, Mr. President. Whilst I am absolutely in solidarity with the people of Palestine, I would just like to share something with you. We need to not forget that in the Great Lakes region and in the Gulf of Guinea and in Sahel, there are people who are under attack and who are physically threatened. And I am disappointed that we have not done something similar, a motion similar for those people, and I hope that we will do it in the future. We cannot neglect these regions that are suffering from terrible physical, political, climate insecurity, food insecurity. And so I absolutely support the people of Palestine, but we also need to adopt a motion for the peoples of Africa. Thank you.
Any further interest on this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, just a small on number one, where it says condemn strongly the recent banning of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, in brackets UNRWA. It should be UNRWA. UNRWA.
Thank you very much, Honorable Yusuf. Then I go to Honorable Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. President. in my name and in the name of the North African caucus in this parliament, I would like to thank you personally and for the members of the Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament for adoption of this declaration on solidarity with the people of Palestine. We in the North African countries, we value this position and we thank you for that. Secondly, in my name and in my capacity as a representative of Libya, I would like to thank the Republic of South Africa for what they have done towards the Palestinian cause. We value their stance, and from here, within the in the Chamber of Pan-African Parliament in the Republic of South Africa, we record our gratitude and appreciation of the Republic of South Africa for what they have, for the efforts they made towards the Palestinian cause. And we are, in our turn, as and in my capacity as a chairperson of this North African caucus, we would like to thank all the members that they have helped us and support us in delivering our voice from this chamber to be delivered to all international organizations, all political organizations and continental organizations. We thank everyone who supported the Palestinian cause. This is a cause for the entire humanity. We thank you for your support. Mr. President, last week we have signed a call or an action call to support the Palestinian cause. And this petition that we have signed it was delivered to the presidency of the parliament, and we are grateful for you to sign this petition. So, and you said it must be demonstrated here. So we request if we can add this petition to this declaration also. Thank you very much.
Victoria.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Just to support this declaration coming from Women Caucus and one of the Vice President of Women Caucus, we support this declaration because in terms of this, women and young children suffer a lot. So we add our voice from the Women Caucus for this declaration. Thank you so much.
That is important. Any interest? Yes, that's Honorable Ture.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. I have issue with one, recommendation one, with providing aid and support to millions of Palestinian refugees, and the immediate reinstatement of the UNRWA activities, because they have been stopped. So if we must recommend that they are reinstated, they are allowed to proceed to do their work. And if you come to 4, just want to add something like occupation of Palestine, because we just say occupation, but we should specify it to say the unlawful occupation of Palestine within 12 months. So we need to insert that there. Thank you very much.
Monsieur le Président.
Honorable Suleiman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also join my colleagues to stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine. And the people of Palestine are human beings that deserve dignity, that deserve better life, and they have a right to survive, right to live. Honorable Speaker, what is happening to the people of Palestine is uncalled for. It's complete genocide. And I don't think in 21st century, we should stand and see what is happening to these people. We read history where there were killings, mass killing of people, genocide, Palestine today, how are we going to call it? We all need to stand like the people of South Africa, the government of South Africa, how they did it. All states in Africa must also stand up to be in support with them, to see to it that this issue is discussed at the highest level. In fact, it should want us to boycott United Nations summits if the killings are not stopped. We need to do an action. We cannot only be making solidarity without actions. We need to make boycotts. to certain meetings. Let them know that human beings are dying, young people are dying, women are dying. We cannot just sit down and making resolutions. No, actions need to be done. Thank you.
Honorable Mariam.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
I thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to express the solidarity of the Committee on Gender Equality, Family and Youth and persons living with disabilities. Because what we are seeing happening in Palestine and the pictures that we have are images of children and women who are victims. This is why we would like firmly to support this resolution and most particularly assert that no cause would ever allow the massacre of a whole people. I just have an issue of form on 5 in the French version. It's written, the parliament asserts its solidarity with the Palestinian people. But we should say in French, with the Palestinian people, instead of Palestinians only in the French version. Thank you.
Further expressions of interest. I received some advice, and I want to read this. Illegal occupation, in quotation marks, is as used in the UN resolution. When you put illegal, but the rest is illegal occupation, is in quotes and quoted from the UN resolution. But in my view, here we are PAP. And at the UN, I know they try to reach some diplomatic compromises, whether in courts. We at PAP, we don't need the cause. Ours is an illegal occupation, and we treat it as such. Another contribution? Yes. Where? Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You actually put the hammer on the nail. It's right. I mean, when we look at Palestine, there's no justification. I know that what happened on October 7th was gruesome, but it could have been dealt with in a much humane way. To make even a young child, a pregnant woman, go through such ordeals, to see fathers carrying their children, innocent citizens of Palestine, is wrong. And I feel that, much as I never supported Donald Trump as the president of US, my candidate was purely and squarely Kamala Harris, he has promised to end this war within weeks or months of him being in office. And we hope that it can be ended. And I think the solution is the two-state solution. It has gone on for too long, and it's time that Palestine gets its own state, its own recognition, and the people of Palestine be free of this constant abuse and battering by a superpower that they cannot fight against. I mean, the Third World War is imminent if we cannot end the war in Palestine, because we are divided to the core. And it's now a question of humanity, it's a question of principle, and it's a question of, really, is the United Nations serving its purpose? Because if the United Nations feel helpless when it comes to Israel, then we have a problem. Who else will they seem helpless to? I mean, if they cannot go in and provide relief to the many Palestinians, the millions who require aid and support, then we are failing as humanity. So I believe that many lives have been lost, on both sides, and it's time to end the war.
We are all custodians of this earth. None of us are going to live beyond our lifetimes. We're all going to die. So why destroy everything and anything? We've seen destructions all over the Middle East. We've seen destructions even in Africa. I mean, what happened in Libya was wrong. What happened in Kuwait was wrong. What's happening in Ukraine is wrong. What's happening in DRC Congo is wrong. I think it's time for us to stand in solidarity with what is right. And what is right is understanding that geography is not everything. What is important is that we all learn to live together in this world that we found and in this world that we will live. And taking a life just because you want ownership of assets or land is not what was meant by our Creator, whoever we perceive him to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, because she's the last speaker, is it? Can we then clap for her much more loudly? And that we have adopted the Declaration on Palestine. Another round of applause. Thank you very much. The clerk shall read the second order.
Honorable President, the second order of business is the closing ceremony of this session.
And the closing ceremony, before my speech, I'll ask each bureau member, give them 1 minute to just also to thank you for the commitment to this moment. I'll start with the first Vice President, just to thank the MPs, for their commitment to this minute.
I thank you, Mr. President. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to add my voice to the voice of the colleagues in order to support the declaration in support of the Palestinian people who is suffering every day. And I would like also to thank my colleagues, honorable members, for electing me as the first Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament. I would like to thank them very sincerely for electing me and supporting me. And also, I would like also to extend my thanks and gratitude to my colleagues, the sisters and the brothers in the Northern Caucasus for supporting my candidature in order to complete and to fulfill this mission. Would like to extend also my thanks to my colleagues in the Bureau, and most particularly President Charumbira, for their support and also for the my speedy integration into the Bureau. And I would like to thank you all, the Bureau and the whole Secretariat and the staff of the Pan-African Parliament. I thank you.
Honorable Dr. Gayo.
Honorable Chief Fortune Charumbira, President of Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Vice Presidents of Pan-African Parliament, Honorable members of Pan-African Parliament, Madam Clerk Lindwe, Deputy Clerks, and all the staff. Let me take this opportunity to thank the President of Pan-African Parliament to give us a floor to give some vote of thanks to members in a very unusual way, which was not practiced in part. May we give our big hand to the President of Pan-African Parliament. Honorable members, we learned a lot from you, from members. We are guided by you. We decided at the Bureau level to stick and to consider on matters which can unite us rather dividing us. That's why now, today, I can assure you, we have a bureau which is very united, which can speak with one voice, and which will be guided by you, which will not let you down. Honorable members, during this session, we invited many guests out from world, I can say, out of Africa, from Belarus. And we agreed through Belarus to mediate the problem, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And also Pan-African Parliament this time has become very visible, even at the level of United Nations. We are invited by United Nations to represent the people of Africa. And also we are going to COP29, also to represent Pan-African Parliament and the continent. This is a quality of leadership, the leadership of our President Chief Cherembura. May I ask you again to give you another big applause. Excellencies, we have many challenges. We should remain united. We have many challenges. At PRC, it's not secret. They took over all our activities. They are legislating the union business. They already replaced the legislative organ of Pan-African Parliament. It's high time to defend the interest of the Pan-African Parliament and also to work on the ratification of the Malabo Protocol, at least which can give us a little power. It's not legislative power, just to debate on the budget of the union and the other activities. So, Excellencies, it was short time for me. We missed each other for quite a long time. Now we have got an opportunity to hug each other, to greet each other. So hope we will come soon, and again we will reunite, we will meet here at Pan-African Parliament. Thank you for the opportunity, Your Excellency.
Honorable members of the Bureau, the first Vice President, second Vice President, and the fourth, Honorable Jida, who sent me a message that he had to go to the mosque, and we are in prayers with him. I stand here to announce and officially close our session. I am one of the happiest here because this session we achieved a lot. From the day we met as bureaucracies into strategic planning, into the first week of sitting, we've achieved a lot. But I want to thank you, all of you, for your commitment and disciplined behavior and good behavior and belief in your leadership and the confidence in your leadership. You remember the first day was bad, we had no water. And there was a risk that members may say, because there's no water, we are going back home, or we are suspending sitting until there's water. But I want to really say I'm very, very, very happy that you believed in your leadership. You stayed along until the water came back. Can I thank you for that one? I want to thank you. You did not play politics because there was no water, but you behaved honorably. And I really want to thank you for the commitment to Africa. I want to thank you also for your contributions since we started. All of you have made contributions on various topics, some more than 20 times, some maybe twice, but that is the nature of us. And the live contributions from Honorable Fanyo. We all know that Fanyo will always come on the floor on whatever topic. That is why we are here. It's why we are here. You don't want to go back with issues that you could not present. On any topic that you presented, the spirit was to share and inform. So I want you really to be associated with me in the happiness. We achieved what was potentially a failure, but we succeeded in the election of the first vice president. You all agree that it's reached a point of possible failure, but we are happy and we once more congratulate our first vice president. We adopted the strategic plan. We should be happy about that. Now we have direction. We invited the diaspora. We are here. We are now interacting with the diaspora. Belarus speaker, an MOU which we signed. We adopted our results-based management approach. Adoption of the model law on nationality and eradication of statelessness. That also is a major achievement. Adoption of the model law on labor migration in Africa is another major success. Adoption of the declaration on the solidarity with the Palestine, which we have just done this morning. Again, achievement. Resuscitation of committee activities that had almost collapsed. And even after this session, most of the committees are still going to meet before the end of December. And that this year we mobilized resources. That's why this session has been a success. Going forward, what do? We should ensure that the effective implementation of Agenda 2063, we should not forget. As we go back to our national parliaments, remember that we will belong to a continental body, which is also responsible for implementing Agenda 2063. What are you doing at the national level to make sure we succeed? And in the implementation of what has been identified as the liberator economically of this continent, which is the AfCFTA. We are told if this succeeds, Africa is liberated economically. So as we go back, we have a duty to make sure we follow up on this one. We also have a duty to follow up on the recommendations and resolutions that we have made, and also repairing the PAP image. We continue to engage with the Office of the Legal Counsel and the Executive Council in addressing areas of concern in terms of our rules of procedure, and that the rules that violate the protocol indeed are to be incorporated in the rules as they appear. They should be from the protocol. The protocol provisions should be in the rules so that there are no contradictions. Then also in the reforms of the African Union, we are a topical organ with respect to reforms. There's a lot about PAP when you are reforming the AU. And when we met the champion for the AU, president of Kenya in Nairobi, we spent almost 3 hours on this topic. We gave him a comprehensive document on what PAP looks forward to in terms of reforms. And we are happy that last week, when engaged people in the AU on reforms, he actually mentioned his interaction with Pan-African Parliament, and respectively mentioned that the PAP has important issues that need to be brought on board. And we should thank the President of Kenya for that spirit. Can we please thank him for that spirit? look, we should continue to work with the oversight organs as an oversight organ on AU. The issue of the budget, oversight budget of the AU is our responsibility. Mobilizing funds, a very important issue. Mobilizing funds for our committees to ensure that they oversight and they do fact-finding missions so that we are visible and we achieve results on the continent. And then the issue of pushing for a more active role in promoting peace and security. Parliamentary diplomacy. We should really engage more and do more on the issue of the PAP playing a role on issues to do with Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Conakry, Niger, Gabon, Sudan, and the others. And there are issues, of course, that have to do with our own welfare. We are telling these meetings, and we are aware that in terms of the protocol, Article 10, we need to all of us to receive allowances when we are doing PAP business. But this is being violated. That's why we don't receive allowances, and even the Bureau itself. Then there's the issue of staff recruitment, which is lagging behind, and we need to address outstanding audit observations to ensure prudent financial management and repair of our image in that area. We need to have platforms where PAP engages the Executive Council and even the Assembly on its issues. And also existing partners, we explore new ones and strengthen a capacity for MPs and staff. Before I conclude, can I join me in congratulating the President of Botswana, His Excellency Duma Gideon Bok, for his victory in Botswana. And I wish him well. And we want also as PAP, in the deepening of democracy on the continent, we want to commend the outgoing President of Botswana, His Excellency Masisi, for respecting the will of the people and putting the interests of the country first before his own interests. As you know, he considered a defeat, and the transition has been smooth, and even attended the inauguration ceremony, which other people don't do. So we need to show and support democracy by just an upload for him to say, you have done well. When you go back, please, first of all, if you don't have anything written, ask the secretary, the clerk's office, to provide you a summary of all the business that we conducted during the session. You can get it from the clerk's office. We'll ask her to write a good summary which every parliament can present in their parliament as to the business that we conducted. I know some of you can write, and are good writers. You can simply add on to what you get from here. We need you to go back and tell your national parliament that we were at PAP for more than 2 weeks, and we deliberated and did most of the laws on this and that, so that our national parliaments and the people in your respective countries can see the relevance and the value of Pan-African parliaments. So leaders of delegations, please supervise the work of informing your parliaments about PAP activities when you go back. I can go on and on, but the best thing is to thank you by clapping for you. I want to clap for you. I've always said those people who remain in the chamber to the last minute like this need to be known always. And Madam Clerk, some are leaving, some are still around until Monday or Sunday. If they are around, some are not in the bureaucracies. But some bureaucracies members have left. I think those that are not in bureaucracies and they are around, please register through your caucus chair or acting chair or whoever. We need the clerk to know those that may be around, but they are not part of regional caucuses or they are not part of committee bureaucracies. Because if I see the number in this room, it is less than the number of bureaucracies. Yes, the number in this room is less than the total number of bloc's members, which means why should someone be staying idle here in Midland tomorrow rather than join us in Pretoria for the planning workshop? So those that are willing, please register. And on this note, I say thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, shukran, obrigado, asante sana, safe trip. But before you leave, I think we have some very important announcements from the office of the clerk. I was going to wait for the clerk to declare the end of the session and the beginning of the planning workshop in Pretoria. But Madam Clerk, announcements.
Under the direction of the President, I would like to announce that colleagues from the Secretariat will be at the registration desk outside this hall to take down confirmations of those honorable members that will be joining the annual planning meeting, and also those that may need transportation to the airport or elsewhere. That's the only announcement at this time, Honorable President.
No, where are we going? And what time? And how do people go there?
The venue for the annual planning meeting is the Sheraton Hotel in Pretoria. I think the best way might be to communicate via the MP WhatsApp group the exact time of departure. But there will be transporting honorable members to their hotels for checkout for where that's applicable, and to Pretoria as the case may be. We'll communicate via email and on the WhatsApp group.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Maybe the MPs would want to check out. Because if we say we don't know, they will stay up to 4 or 5. When they check out, the hotel will say, but we've already billed you for today. So they need to be picked in time so that they don't pay for accommodation tonight.
We are proposing that check-in begins from 4 p.m. in Pretoria at the Sheraton Hotel, which would mean perhaps we say from 3 p.m., pick up from various hotels in Johannesburg. Thank you.
Hello. Order. We now rise for the AU anthem.
Let us all unite and celebrate together. A song for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together, to defend our liberty and unity. Oh, fils et filles de l'Afrique, chers du soleil, chers du ciel, faisons de l'Afrique la belle de vie. Let us all unite and sing together to uphold the bond of friend and destiny. Let us dedicate ourselves to fight together for in peace and justice on earth. Filhos, filhas da África, essência do sou essência do ser. Façamos da África da vida. Let us all unite and talk together to give the best we have to Africa. They bread along mankind with front of culture. Our bread and hope and break of dawn. Yeah, now, Africa, you are Sasha, Edu Sama. Africa, Shah to Ayat.
Thank you. Bon voyage.
Yes.